see we have about 10, 11 participants now. Yeah, we can be more. So for the meantime, when I say meantime, I guess about 2 to 5 minutes, we're going to be more people are going to be joining in, and I really don't want guys to miss out on this. We already have our speaker on the line, Emmanuel. Yeah, so I don't know if anyone know Emmanuel, but yeah, so before we even get to that, I just want more people to join in. If you're just joining in because of the fact that we had quite a lot of people registered for this event, you can just drop in the comment in the chat section where you're joining in from and how excited you are for this event. By the way, I'm Paul Okeomi. I currently lead the DSN community on Obafemi Awolowo University campus. Yeah, so I'm waiting for your chats in the comment section. Yeah, where are you joining in from? How excited are you for this event? Okay. Yeah, so we have Nolis. I'm not sure I got the name correctly, but Nolis is joining us from Ghana, all the way from Ghana. Wow. So really, really, really excited to have you on the call. Nolis. I'm not sure I got the pronunciation correctly though. Yeah, so all the way from Ghana. I don't know, do you have anyone from Nigeria here? You can just drop that in the comment section. Okay, so we have Ifetuyosi from OAU, yeah. So joining from Nigeria, very excited to have you, Ifetuyosi. The number keep increasing. Now we have 15 people. I know we can do more. Yeah, but before we even, I'm already spilling the beans. So yeah, I'm not sure if anyone any one of the participants know Emmanuel. So I'm sure probably on LinkedIn or somewhere. I don't know. If you know him, you can just show by show of hands, you can signify if you know Emmanuel or you've seen one of his many LinkedIn posts before. Yeah, so I have one hand up. Who else? Oluchi from OAU, you're welcome. Yeah, so someone not sure I can see uh so who is raising his hand? Okay, Oluwatosin Olajide said he knows Emmanuel. Yeah. So one of the reasons why I even reached out to Emmanuel in the first place was the event, this topic kept coming to mind, and I was looking for the best person to properly talk about this topic, and I saw one of Emmanuel's posts, and I kept seeing some of his very, very nice projects. And yeah, it just occurred, yeah, why not reach out to him and let him come and do this event. So really, really, really excited to have him on the line. We have about 17 people on the line now. Without wasting much of our time, I guess it's a fine um, time to start. Okay. So we have Tosin joining in from Ogun State, Nigeria, a team from OAU. Everyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome. Okay. So um, quickly, I'm going to be doing a quick introduction um, of Emmanuel Achem. I don't want to miscall the name. Okay, quickly moving on. So Emmanuel is the co-founder of roboMUA. I don't know if it's pronounced as roboMUA, but MUA meaning makeup artist. So roboMUA is a virtual makeup artist. Emmanuel is going to be explaining what this is, and is going to be talking more on this. Even if he doesn't want to talk, so I'm going to ask him questions, as well as a Coursera project instructor with 5 courses and over 300 students. Is constantly learning and always building new things. His interest revolves around Python, maths, um, cloud AR, meaning augmented reality, VR, virtual reality. He enjoys African traditional religion and cultures outside of work, and he has good musical taste. He enjoys reading and is a major lover of transcendentalism. He's currently reading largely African history, including Martin Meredith's Fortunes of Africa. Okay, so the reason why I added this text after was, um, so correspondence I've had with Emmanuel, this mailing, me mailing him and he replying. At the end of it, he wrote this. I got 99 problems building AI systems end one. So if Emmanuel is not the best person to talk about this building end-to-end ML project, I don't know who is, because he said building AI projects isn't one of his problems. I know a lot of us have problems building AI projects. Okay, so main focus of this event is just for you to ask questions, for you to gain or learn one or two things about building end-to-end project, because you ask yourself, after finishing that tutorial or after finishing that course or after taking Coursera or data camp, what's next? And because of the fact that the reason why you even learned the skill in the first place was to land a job or to say be a founder or to build things, then you just have to go straight on, head on, and build projects. I'm Paul Acheampong. I'll be hosting this event, and I have Emmanuel on the line. Emmanuel is joining us very very early this morning. One more reason why I appreciate is joining in. He's joining in. I don't know where from, but it's 8 a.m. where he is over now. Yeah. And quickly about the community. The community is DSN OAU, Data Scientist Network OAU. OAU meaning Obafemi Awolowo University. And it's just a community of data enthusiasts, ML professionals, students, researchers on OAU campus who share that common goal or common aim of machine learning, data science, and artificial intelligence. Okay, so you can follow us on social media, AI plus OEU and on Instagram. And quickly before Emmanuel comes in our last event, I don't know how many you were in our present in our last event, but it was very, very awesome. We had a giveaway for the person who could best summarize the whole event happening today. So whatever you learned, go on Twitter, summarize it, tag me, tag Emmanuel, tag the community, and the person who has the best summary gets to win our giveaway. So very quickly, I'll be introducing Emmanuel. So Emmanuel, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Paul. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, awesome. Yeah,
okay.
Thank you so much. This is a great honor. I'm super excited to interact and engage with the awesome people at DSN OAU. And Paul, opportunity. It's always nice to talk about AI ML, but talking to people like yourselves and about the DSN network, about how like AI ML can be used further on is like, I'm super excited for it. Like, I don't know. I'm so excited to be here. So thank you so much.
Okay. So how will you be do you have a slide where I step down where you share or
yeah, so I don't like to talk at people, right? I don't like having people look at slides. So I wanted to have a conversation and a communication. So there are no, but we're going to be going through just talking like a conversation. And if you have any way, just let it, just raise your hands and then we'll let you in. or you can just put it in the chat and then we can have that. But I
Okay.
genuinely like
Okay.
talking
Yeah.
out loud.
I definitely prefer that in our last event. No slides, just me asking questions, you giving me a response. Okay. So one thing I know you for is roboMUA. Is it pronounced roboMUA or
It's,
roboMUA?
yeah, you can say MUA, but it's MUA because of the abbreviation of the makeup artist. Yeah, but say
Okay.
MUA too. Yeah, it's the exact same.
Okay. So can you like give us the story of roboMUA or
Yeah, yeah,
what is it exactly?
absolutely. So roboMUA is it's an AI company that leverages various AI models, particularly computer vision, to help facilitate retail in the beauty industry. Essentially, what we do is we build models that help brands or users to find the right products for themselves through computer vision. Right? So, for those of you who don't know anything about makeup, the makeup industry is a huge global industry. I think it's over $600 billion, and it's again, it's global. So everywhere in the world, people use makeup, right? And I know that a lot of people assume that only like women use makeup in certain parts, but like your favorite rapper or your favorite artist in their music video, they have makeup on. If you don't know, in movies, makeup is used in theaters, right? So there's so many applications of makeup. And the issue we are trying to solve is that because human skin is so diverse and it's wide ranging, right? It's very difficult to find the right products for each individual because our skins are different. And we realize that it's a data problem, right? Like with computer vision, we can help solve that problem of helping the right user find the right products at the right time. So that is a little bit about what Robo Makeup Artist or roboMUA is. The idea came from what we are talking about this particular event, right, today, is the notion of building end-to-end machine learning projects. So I had been in the, not tutorial hell, but I've taken a lot of online courses. I've taken like almost 200 online courses. And for Coursera, for example, usually for the AI ML one, they would let you build a project at the end. So I got into a point where I wanted to build my own project. And one of my mentors advised me that I should look for projects that other engineers aren't paying attention to, right? Because if you want to stand out, whether in the job market or you want to stand out as a person in general, you should build things other people are not looking at, right? So when I was doing AI ML, I think back in like 2016, 2017, when I was learning it at the very early stages, everybody was building data models with like the Titanic data sets, the Iris flower data sets. And so I wanted to build something that nobody else was building, right? And I think by sheer coincidence, I found out that makeup was a very, very, very lucrative business. And they had a huge problem with people finding the right like foundation shades. And that's how I was like, oh, I already know how to build computer vision. How can I apply my computer vision skills to roboMUA? We built a couple of versions. People loved it. And then like it evolved from this like project, that side project that I've been building end to end for users. And now it's like a small AI startup that we've been working on. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting one there. Okay, so um roboMUA is like one of that project you started working on as a side on the side and turns out to be something you're building. It's turning out to be something more like a startup now. But like for guys who are just starting in, at what point do you say start building projects, and what kind of projects should should they start working on?
Okay, a great question. And I think I will tie it back to like what Knowledge, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, saying how did you start your journey, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey in building projects, and then that would morph into how or what advice I'd give myself if I was starting from the very beginning right now, right? So uh, computer science and math in undergrad. So I want to put that out there because I know that not everybody comes from a traditional background. And so my experience might be different from your experience, right? So like I got into AI ML knowing a bit of math and liking a bit of math. So the math part was like interesting to me. And in college, they didn't really dive deep into those like AI ML courses. So I decided to take my own online courses, right? So like I mentioned earlier, I took a lot of online courses. And I know that people who say things like the online courses are not important or like online courses are not necessary. I disagree a little bit because like without those online courses, like I wouldn't know certain things. Like I wouldn't know how to like deploy a model, right? Like I wouldn't know about cloud or how machine learning can be done in the cloud, right? Like those online courses are the ones that gave me the insights into how to build these things end to end. So I started very slowly. I started looking at like the math behind AI ML. And the reason I wanted to do that, I did that was because I didn't want to be afraid of AI ML, right? I think that a lot of times when people talk about it, it's very like complex. People see like the robots and like what the future could be, and it's so complex. But when you break it down, it's really a lot of like mathematical equations. And I know that people who think like mathematical equations are scary, but it makes it like it's not magic, right? It's just equations at that point. So that's how I started. I took those beginner entry courses, and so that gave me an easy understanding of what AI ML is. And then I started like taking courses like deep learning.ai courses on machine learning and deep learning. But at the end of each of the course, again, like I mentioned earlier, there's usually like a project that you had to complete in order to get your certificate, right? And so like I would follow along with what the instructor was saying, and then like I'll build the same project that the instructor was doing. And so the more I did that, the more I became like conversant or I became familiar with the whole process of like building these projects at the beginning. At the beginning, I didn't have my own ideas, right? And so what I was doing was looking at other people's ideas and replicating those ideas. So like I would see someone had built a computer vision model for like medicine, detecting X-rays, irregularities. So I would just replicate the exact same thing that this person had done, right? So if they used, I don't know, like a type of model, right? Like I'll use that same model. Like I'll say it was more like copy and pasting, but I wouldn't copy and paste it. I would like type it along as that person was typing along. Right? So I wasn't like copy and pasting, but like, oh, this person did import this here, did that and that. Okay, this person got the data set from Kale. I'll use the exact same data set. And after that, as I got more used to it, right? Because again, I was very brand new. I had no idea what I was doing. Looking at what other people had done was like, okay, it made me get more familiar and comfortable, right? So whenever I started like talking about AI, ML, like in terms of like actual projects, it wasn't very scary because I'd seen people do it and I'd been replicating it. But after some time, right, I think after my first like 10 projects in, I was like, I want to be able to do this on my own. And so before I started doing it on my own, I would again replicate the exact same project these people were doing, but instead of using their data sets, I'll use a different data set, right? So for example, if they use like the iris data sets for a classification model, I will try with like different types of gooses, right? Or different types of geese, right? Or like trying to classify birds or like cats and dog, right? Like it's the exact same project, but a different data set, right? And the reason that is very helpful is that like as I was using like the exact same project, it means I was more familiar, right? So it's not like I had to come up with anything new. I already knew what they were doing. I was just bringing my own spice or my own interest to those projects. So the good thing about that is that it made the projects more interesting. Right? So for example, like I had no interest in like the iris data set, right? Like the iris data set didn't mean it. Like I was just doing it because the person doing the tutorial was like saying that I should do it, right? But I have interest in like fashion or like traditional outfits. So as I was building a image classification for like traditional outfits, because I had interest in it, it motivated me to complete that project and have fun while doing that project. I don't know if that makes sense. So instead of
Yeah. I think it makes
I'm doing
a
this,
lot of sense actually,
yeah.
because
So instead of
people get intimidated initially because they don't know where to start. So um, the idea of you replicating what has already been done and knowing how to do it, then try to do it in your own way or try to replace the data sets. Or so it just makes complete sense, and it makes things way more easier starting off a project. Yeah, so I guess this is something you guys should probably so Tolu is saying this is gold because yeah, it actually makes a lot of sense. So don't go starting at the top, like looking for very, very challenging things. Just replicate what someone else has done and try to fit in your own input into it. Yeah. Okay. On your LinkedIn, I saw you were on the road to building 1,000 ML projects. So like I want to ask like how many what's the road like? So how many more to go?
so it's great catch there. Yeah, so I crossed 300 last year. This
Oh, 300.
500, yeah. So I'm like slowly getting there. But I think the only difference is like in undergrad, like I would do the project and I'll put it on LinkedIn and I'll get users. And I'm at a point where like I'm trying to build more mature products. So like it's taking a little bit more time. But I think I can clear 500 by the end of this year. Yeah. So hopefully it's
Wow.
crossed.
So, do you know, I don't know, but just giving, say, how many people do we have on this call? We have about 33 people on this call. So say each person does 10 projects. That's about 330 projects and still not matching. Okay, you said 300, so like very similar, very close.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the lesson here is a lot of work has actually gone into you building things, and reason why you can even confidently say that building ML products aren't a problem to you. So I guess everyone just has to start somewhere. 300 may seem intimidating, but you may decide to go 2,000, way past Emmanuel is going, and just start with basic projects. It doesn't have to be, yeah. So, I thought, I want to ask, when did you start learning initially? Like when did you start, say, okay, coding or your first line of Hello World?
Wow. Good question. Yeah, I'll share my GitHub after this, Ibrahim. Uh,
Okay.
and for the 300, like, I think you should not ever be intimidated. I don't know, like the way I learn, I don't look at other people's like progress at all. And I think that's been very, very helpful for me. Like if you were to go on LinkedIn, there are very few people who are going to say, "Hey, I want to build 1,000 projects," right? Like it's my own personal goal that I've set for myself, right? So like you don't have to look at what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, how did they? No, like you're learning at your own pace, right? Like I learn at my own pace. Like there's so many amazing people in AI ML that I see all the time. Like I respect their hustle, but like their goals are not my goals, right? So I don't let what they've done or haven't done intimidate me at all. So just keep that in mind. So I've like I knew how to use computers in general, right? Like from primary school all the way. But like actually coding, I started doing in college. I wanted to be an electrical engineer, but that didn't pan out. So I got into like computer science, and so that like my first actual like in an IDE, printing Hello World was with Python in 2015. Yeah, so that was a
That was
that was a.
that was
I
okay.
would say that I had a lot of like help, and I have an amazing group of people who've helped me along the way. And the person who introduced me to like the AI ML field was my first internship manager. And like, because again, when I was in college, everybody wanted to do like software engineering, everybody wanted to build like websites and stuff. And so he was like, hey, I know you like math, and I think that this data project that we have would be great for you. So he really was the person who like introduced me into like AI ML, like this whole space, right? Like he gave
Yeah.
a lot of resources, he gave me a lot of advice. He was the person who was like, hey, uh, take courses, right? Build unique projects, right? And so I had that support system that made my journey into AIML like smoother per se, right? So if there's an advice I'd give you, I don't know if you can find a support system around you, right? Because again, this is
Yeah.
very complex and difficult. So you need people around you. And I think a place like DSN is like a great way to have like-minded people that, you can learn together and then uh, grow grow together. Yeah, but it's been a journey. So the first line of code 2015, uh, first like AI ML entering was around 2017. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the advice of actually finding this a support system is one no one should actually take lightly, because it gets tiring at times, or it can get difficult or challenging at times, because you figure out, okay, and the fact, another thing I can very much relate to is the fact that everyone wants to build websites, and everyone wants to build applications. Fine, but guys that now like have that interest in doing this very mathematical field called ML, it now gets way more challenging, because sometimes you're doing ML, but then you need to know software engineering, or you need to do some software things. So you just can't do this alone. You just have to have a way of say support system. It could be a mentor that that always checks up on you and make sure that you're doing the right thing, or and stuff like that. So DSN OE is one place to be, and yeah, you can always join the community, and we can do awesome stuff together. Okay, so quickly I want to ask, moving on, um, I want you to give examples of projects that you've done. Say one project that you feel you feel very very proud of. I don't know. It could be roboMUA. It could be yeah, just one that you remember and you're like, oh, this was very challenging for me, and yeah, I think I learned a lot building that.
Great question. And it's not roboMUA. roboMUA is my
Well, I was guessing that was it, because it seemed
yeah.
quite at the project.
So I think Tolu said he asked the question.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
check
awesome.
now.
Yeah, so I think one of the project, my favorite, I wouldn't call it my favorite project, but it was the first project that I worked on that it like it made me realize, wow, I can do this AI ML thing, right? Like it wasn't a complete project. It wasn't an end to end, because the results and everything was done in Jupyter notebooks. And I'm assuming everyone here is technical, so they know what Jupyter notebooks are. So
Yeah.
it was a project that was detecting emotions from an image and then recommending like some Ghanaian music based on that image. And
Oh,
it was a very fun project. It was an extremely fun project because it was the first time I built my own data set from the ground up. It wasn't a huge data set, but like at that time, Google Images, their Python API used to work. I know now it doesn't work, uh, but it used to work at that time in 2017, 2018. And so what I did was that I got my own data set of like dark skin, like African men, and like in their 5 emotions, like smiling, angry, sad, and a couple and the other emotions, right? And like I trained the model to like classify the image because I wanted it to work on me, right? I wasn't building it for everybody. I was like, okay, I'm gonna
yeah.
And then I went on YouTube and I created my own data set of like emotional Ghanaian music. So there was like sad, there was like happy, there was like angry, right? And so, and I said that as a JSON. So I'd load the JSON, and then like when the image is classified, it would like recommend that.
Fetch your music.
It was like the very first version of roboMUA. Let me put it that way. Like the way roboMUA works now is how I thought that first project was going to work. Yeah.
Wow.
It was hard because I didn't know how to deploy models at that time. It was insane. And so like, that's why it's still a hitch for the notebook, but I didn't know how to deploy models at that time. But I think it's the best for me because it was the first time I built a project from the ground up by myself. I got my own data set, right? I my own labeled data, and then I trained that CNN, and then like I tried it out on myself, and I was so happy when it worked on me, because like I don't know, like whenever you build a project,
yeah, like that eureka moment.
first time, exactly, right? I was so happy. I was like jumping up and down, and so yeah, that's one of my that's my best project in my mind.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, very interesting story to hear. So I think everyone can relate to, because when things come to you, like me personally, when the way I even do projects is I just something just pops in my head, and I just want to do it, and if I don't do it, I just won't I just won't be okay with myself, because I'll be like, yeah, I jotted that down already, and I already see ways of doing this thing, and I feel it's going to be actually very nice when I pull it off. And when you eventually pull it off, it actually gives you that joy and happiness that you were able to pull this off. Yeah, so I think that's the way things work in the ML space, because there are things that have not really been done, or things that you feel like you could apply ML to, and it just depends on you to find a way around it and do it. And when it works eventually, it just makes you a better ML engineer, because yeah, it's end to end and it works. Okay, so I'm on the platform where we are receiving questions now, and someone is asking, I'm speaking candidly, do you think the projects do you think the prospects are high? Yeah, I've heard that there's a high saturation of DSC professionals compared to software engineers. So I guess this person is saying is a high saturation of, say, data professionals. I don't know what they mean by DSC, but maybe data science
Data
professionals,
science,
yeah,
data science
compared to
professionals, right?
software engineering. So what do you think about that?
So
What's your take?
this is my own perspective again. Like take it with
Okay.
a salts, because yeah. With this, right? I don't know if you guys know. I don't know about if you look at like a field like product management, right? Like if you look at product management, it's become very popular recently, and everybody wants to become a product manager per se. But then like the roles of product management are not as high as like the roles for software engineers.
I'm sorry, I'll miss the person now. Okay, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So just like product, like, I'm using product management as an example, right? Because again, it's now a very popular field now that has a lot of interest. But then the roles of product management are not as high as the roles of software engineering, right? And that's because a lot of companies that rely on technology, they need software engineers. Like they need to build the technology with the software, right? Like before you get your data, you need your application running in order to get the data, right? Like before you even think of like AI, ML, right? In the real world, your software must work, right? And that's why like software engineering is right now in tech is king, because again, like everything needs the software to work before you can get the data, before you can train your models, even to deploy your models for people to use. You need software, right? So definitely software has a lot more roles. But I think the reason why people think like data scientists has a lot of saturation is because I think a lot of people consider it as an alternative path into tech, right? So it's like, oh, you don't have to do all these like lead code stuff. So as long as you can like take a couple of courses, show like a project or two, like you can get in. And that's okay, but I think that's where the saturation is coming from. I don't think the saturation is coming from like the industry hiring too many data scientists, but I think a lot of people have showed interest because again, people think that data science is like the sexiest job. And if you go on LinkedIn, like every three posts, you're going to see someone talking about data science or like AI ML, right? And that's where the saturation is. But I think the reason the saturation is there is because there's a lot of need, right? But then not a lot of people can fill that need that is there. So I think Paul said something about like how you might need software engineering in order to deploy these AI ML models, right? Like no, in the real world or in the industry, nobody cares about like your Jupyter notebook and what it does, right? Like nobody cares that you've completed like, IBM data science project, right? Like nobody cares that like you've taken Andrew Ng's like course and then you've, yeah. So what they do care is that can you provide business value for me? And so a lot of the saturation is because a lot of data science professionals are not able to directly provide business value, right? But with software, you don't really like with software, they need a website to be up. You need like the application to work. So it's like, it's easier to get more software engineers than data science professionals on teams. However, I would say that a lot of companies are now like diving more and more into ML. And so like ML engineering has become like a relatively, how do I put it? It's become more, not attractive, but it's become something. So for example, like I get offers for interviews like almost every week, right? Because the skills to do ML engineering is so highly in demand that very few people actually, a lot of people talk about data and AI ML, but very few people actually know how to like do these
build stuff.
Yeah, so and so I think that's why talking about building projects end to end is very, very important. Because if someone can build end-to-end products, that means they know how to directly provide business value. And a lot of people, like a lot of companies will prefer that as to somebody who just knows like data science, right? Like now, like data scientists come like a dime a dozen. So that's like, again, from my perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think the field is saturated. I just think that a lot of people have a lot of interest, and then the roles for them are too few. And then for the few roles, companies are looking for people who are like, not unicorns, but like who can do a lot more, right? So it's made it more competitive than like with software engineering, right? Like with software engineering, if you can do lead code, you're probably going to get a job. But like with AI/ML, you have to be able to know how to do lead code. You have to know cloud. You have to know math. You have to know this, that, and that's what makes it more difficult, right? But I wouldn't call it like a saturation per se, because I think saturation would mean that like they are now hiring way more data scientists than they are doing software engineers, and I don't think that's what is happening in industry right now. And I think, can you hear me? Yeah, so I think Tolu's like, how would you position yourself? I think that like always be learning, right? But I think the best way to position yourself is that if you're interested in a particular company, let's say you're interested in a fintech company, build projects that are related to the fintech companies, right? Like build things that like are helping solve their problems. That way they know that, again, this is for startups. For big companies, you just have to do lead code and go through the whole process. But for like startups, like if you're able to directly show them how you can add value to their business, right? By building projects that are related to their line of work, like you're probably going to get it off of faster than, so for example, if you want to work with a healthcare startup, build a project related to healthcare AI, if they are doing things in terms of like X-rays, make sure that project is related to X-rays and you can talk through it end to end, right? But for like a big company, I think like they have a standard like lead code, and as long as you can follow those lines, should be fine.
Okay, yeah, very nice. So positioning yourself just means knowing what you want and acting in that direction. So for guys,
Exactly.
yeah, so just giving like a quick experience I had, there was this company looking for computer vision guys, but their application for computer vision is in the health sector. So fine, you're a very good computer vision engineer, but all your projects are revolving around agriculture. Um, it tells that okay, probably you didn't have the company in mind, or like unlike someone who has a lot of CV project, computer vision projects, relating to healthcare and stuff like that. It just makes the person a better match. Although you can both build computer vision models, but the person
Yeah.
has built more healthcare projects. So yeah, build project relating to the companies you want to um, go to. Okay, so quickly, Nolis is asking, how do you stay productive? What are some of your time management tips, and how do you battle in interior when it comes to completing courses and projects? Yeah,
Yeah.
so this person is asking, how do you stay productive?
This is like the best question ever. I think, yeah, no, thank you for that. That's that question. I think I was waiting to talk about it at some point.
Yeah,
So I think one thing that people in like software engineering or in like AI ML, they don't take into account is like how important or how inter like things can be, right? So for example, product managers have like product roadmaps that they build, but a lot of people in tech or inertia, yeah. A lot of people in tech don't really like think about like a product.
yeah, I think I missed the word.
Yeah. So one thing that I do and I highly recommend, if you take nothing from this, I think you should take this, is that learn how to build like product roadmaps for your goals. That is like for the courses and for like the projects, right? And I think a lot of people don't do that. They just like dive into things and then they just like go with the flow, right? But sometimes with going with the flow, if there's no current pulling you, like you're just gonna get stuck. Or if the current is too high, like you're gonna get yourself burnt out, right? So building a product roadmap is so essential for projects and also for courses. So the reason why I've been able to build those like 300 is because I follow a strict product roadmap, right? So for anyone who doesn't know what a product roadmap is, like every company, let's take Apple, right? Like they have a roadmap of when they're going to launch the next iPhone, and they have like goals set between each period before they launch the next iPhone, right? So treat your products and your projects and your courses as like the next iPhone, right? So if you have the next iPhone that you're trying to build,
Treat your projects like products.
exactly,
Yeah,
analogy, like treat them like products, right? Like treat your courses like products that you care about. And then because you have these set goals, it allows you to stay focused, right? So great fit. And also one thing that I do is that like I reward myself for completing things and for completing my courses and my projects, right? So if there's a movie I'm going to see, I won't see that movie until like I've completed a project, right? So if I complete like when I hit my 100 project milestone, I bought something very nice for myself, right? Like if I want to spoil myself, like if I hit those goals, that's when I spoil myself. So it helps me stay motivated because I know that hey, I want to watch this movie, I have to complete this project, right? So that keeps me like, at least I have something to look forward to. I think a lot of people don't like think about the notion of rewarding themselves, but I think the way my mind works is that like when I do something and I know I'm going to get a reward for it, it's easier for me to like push through and then finish than if I'm like just doing it for fun, right? So let's say you know that studying this thing is going to give you a job. I think it's a form of motivation than if you're
yeah,
just like doing it for doing sake. So if you're just doing it for doing sake, having the end result, which is like a reward you're going to give yourself, allows you to stay like committed and like motivated
motivation.
to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like working with people, right? Like I think
Collaborations.
collaboration is important. And in terms of collaboration, people not don't just collaborate with like technical people or like people who are helping you build a product. Also collaborate with people who might potentially use your product, right? So when I started like building Google Assistant Actions, which uses like Google Voice AI to build like applications, I wanted to build like African Anansi stories, which are like Ghanaian traditional stories. And the reason I was wanting to build it was so that like my aunts, my uncles could use it, right? And then remember things from their past too. So because I was able to like work with them, it was easier for me to like have that motivation and also like complete that work. So definitely these three things, which is like having a product roadmap or a roadmap in general with deadlines and then with rewards, right, at the end of completing each project, and having a collaborative effort of working with people, both your end users and also like your people helping you build. I think those three things have helped me tremendously at complete the projects that I've been able to do so far. Okay. So I'm looking at the next question, which says, oh, Paul is back. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I had to go charge my device. Okay, so I think that's like a very, very, very helpful hack because you having a reward for yourself after. So because I think everyone is guilty of this. You have work to do and you're binge watching series on Netflix and stuff like that. So I think an hack, like Emmanuel said, is just I think deprive yourself of those for the time you're taking the course, and when you finish it or when you finish what you're doing, you can use that to reward yourself instead, or get yourself something nice, or take yourself out as a reward
Yep.
for
Yep.
that project. Yeah, yeah. So very nice one there. So the next question is what is the process of completing a project from start to finish, particularly after building the model? What next? So this person is actually asking what
Okay.
is end-to-end ML like, or okay, after finishing your Jupyter notebook building that project, what next?
Mhm.
And
Okay.
what are the processes after?
Great question. Right. So I think that I'm going to start before even building the model and then walk through after building the model. Right. So I think the first step is like the ideation. What's the project is about? It sounds silly, but I think that you'll find that a lot of times coming up with the ideas is actually the hardest part of the whole process. Right. So coming up with an idea, but if you do have an idea, great. Uh, then gathering the data, because I think that the data should always come before the model. And I think even in industry, there's a push to the data-driven model building, right? Like data-driven AI. So getting the data is like the next big step. And most of the times you might find data sources from places like Google data sets or Kaggle or GitHub or online, anywhere online, right? But sometimes you don't find data sources, right? And that's usually the case for me because I like to build like super unique projects. And so like I have to like create that data from the ground up. And there's good and bad, right? The bad is that it's very time wasting because like if I can just find a data set on Kaggle and just plug it into a model, I'm fine. Why do I have to build my own data set? The good thing is that that is how the real world works, right? Like in the real world, if you're working at a company, other than like a big tech company, like the data you're going to get might not be sufficient for your model. Right? You might need to augment that data. You might need to even build that data from the ground up. So that process of building your own data sets, and I also highly recommend it that in addition to like learning all these things, AI, ML stuff, you should learn how to build your own data sets, either through like data engineering or like scraping the web. Find unique projects or unique ideas and then build those data sets by yourselves. It will give you some of the like real world experience, give you a chance to get your hands dirty with data, which is actually the best thing that you can do because you can have a very different perspective on building models. Because if you've only been building models that you plug in Kaggle data sets, in the real world or in an actual like business reality, that's not how it always works. So having that experience would be great. But after you've built your model and then you've trained it, we need to deploy the model, right? Essentially, you need to make your model available for people to be able to use. And so there are multiple ways to deploy the model. And first, you have to save the model, right? And it depends on you as an individual, what you want this project to be. But I think like the two main ways is that you can deploy the model as an API or as a web application, like an end-to-end web application, right? Using it as an API is simpler, right? Because like you just create the endpoints, deploy it, whether through platforms like Heroku or Google Cloud, AWS, or Azure, right? And then you can have people like interact with the model, mainly like developers interact with the model directly, right? And so for that process, all you do is that after you've saved the model, you either build a Flask application as an API in Python or whatever REST APIs you know how to use, and then you deploy it to the endpoints either through Heroku or, again, like I said, GCP, which is cloud, or Azure or AWS, right? So you save the model, you wrap it around a REST API, and then you deploy it into one of the cloud services, right? Heroku is also like a cloud service. Or Netlify. I think Netlify is also another one, right? So that's like that process. And I think that is simpler and it's easier, right? Because if you need anybody to test out your model, you can just send them that endpoint, you send in the data and then they get a response, right? But a lot of times, not everybody's into like technical stuff like that. So you need to build a web app so that people can actually like play with the web app in general and see what it looks like, right? And in those cases, I think if you are not like a full stack developer, you should make friends with full stack developers, right? Like that's where the collaboration comes in, because it can be a lot if you are the person who's like building the model, building the website and deploying the model to the website. It can be a lot. So I would suggest you work with the team, but if you're like super interested in learning and you know how to build websites, I think that's also a great way. And for that, Streamlit has a great, like easy to use, like Python already built in, like web GUI application that you can have, Streamlit. And it makes it super easy to actually like deploy the model in the Streamlit version as a web application that can have like actual users interact with it. The only disadvantage is that Streamlit is not as customizable as like JavaScript and like HTML, CSS, and all those other web frameworks that are available, right? So that's the only disadvantage. But if you can, doing that would be good. And after that has been deployed, you need to monitor the models, because like, for anyone who has models that are in actual production, you know that the model degrades, right? And that's a whole set of like, how do we make sure that we prevent the model from degrading? But after you've completed your project, you've built the model, either wrap it as a REST API and deploy it as an API, or deploy it as a web application. If you want to deploy it as an API, it's simpler. You can use, again, Flask in Python. This is just examples of my head, right? Flask in Python. I think Django even can be used. And then like you deploy it either through Heroku or Netlify, which I think are free, but then Google Cloud and AWS and Azure, they have free resources you can use, especially if you expect your model to go to a bigger audience, right? But if you want to do it as a web application, please work with a team. It's simpler that way. But if you can do it all on yourself, Streamlit has an easy proof of concept way of deploying machine learning models with like user interfaces, web user interfaces. And I would highly recommend that. And again, you can deploy it to either Heroku, Netlify, or Cloud as well.
Okay, yeah, very, very, very nice answer, because you've actually highlighted some basic things you need to know to do something end to end. So some things I really picked out from what you just said now, and I think I should just point that out so that just to re-emphasize, because I think that's why we're here. It's one is building unique projects. So because you said most of your projects are always unique, you don't find data sets for it. So, and building unique data sets I'm sorry, building unique projects in data science actually makes a lot of sense, and actually goes a long way to tell your employers um, or to show that you actually know this thing. Because if I'm going to Kaggle or going to Zindi to fetch data, then I just skipped some process in the end-to-end um, pipeline because I didn't gather the data. I skipped the data gathering and I just moved on to say pre-processing or training. So having a complete end-to-end, if you have data gathering as part of your task, it actually makes the project stand out better. And you talked about the whole lineup of what you do after training the model. So you could decide to, two things that I tend to tell people is know how to build REST APIs, and you could decide to learn this using Flask or Fast API. Yeah, so once you know how to build REST APIs, then you can wrap your models. Your model could be a pickled file, or it could be an exported TensorFlow H5 file. So wrapping your model around a REST API such that if you have a team willing to build a web app for this, they can always build a web app that interacts with the web API. And because of the fact that you want to build things quickly, you actually stated Streamlit. So Streamlit has helped a lot. It has really helped a lot of guys doing ML because imagine you building a project and you want to build a UI for it, and you're like, oh, do I go and start learning React or learning JavaScript? But Streamlit comes in handy here because you can just build easy UIs. Like the UIs are very easy to put together. You have buttons, you have um a lot, and Streamlit is even getting more customizable now, but then it's still not like as customizable as building your own web app from scratch. Yeah, and I also want to point out, I don't know if you guys have heard of Gradio. Yeah, Gradio also helps you to share projects, but then it has some limitations, but you could check that out too. And um, in order for you to have an end-to-end project. And Heroku, Netlify, these are like very free services. You can build some apps for free and host them for free on this platform. So it just gives you that flexibility of you not having to even pay for hosting at all and stuff like that. So really, really nice. So moving on to the next question. I want to ask, does this project of a thing in machine learning applies to people in data science role? Can you suggest new projects in data science? Mm.
So I think like building projects is a whole, it's across the tech field, right? Like, so it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
just,
Not just
yeah, even if you want to do software engineering, you still have to build projects, right? If you want to do front-end engineering, you're going to have to build projects. I think even with DevOps, they still have to build projects to use, right? So project building isn't just for like a specific sector of tech. I think in tech, right, like building projects is a green flag. It's a green flag. Uh, in terms of what suggesting new projects in data science, I think that the advice I would give is that like if there's a particular company you want to work with, and I mentioned this earlier, right? Like find what it is that you're trying to do, and then use that as like you know, a board, a launching board to get into that particular project. So if you don't have like a particular company and you're just doing things for doing sake, looking up online and then seeing what other people have done and then trying to find ways you can modify it to make it your own would also be a great way, right? I don't want to suggest project ideas because again, my projects are like ridiculous, right? Like the things that I'm working on is not not very conventional in that sense. But if you can find something that is interesting to you, and then like you build a project around that, that would be. I think a cool one that I saw recently was someone who was like super excited about like football, and so they built like a model around like predicting who the next World Cup winner is going to be for Qatar, which I think is interesting, right? Like they I was like, oh, okay, that's fun. And so, yeah, again, finding a project that you're interested in, then building things around that would be my advice.
Yeah. So another project that one very interesting project I saw somewhere was someone that a data scientist kept track of his diet for, say, like it kept track of his diet, what is taking in calories and stuff like that for like a very long time. So that was his data gathering stage. So then building very cool visualizations around um, what he has, like his food intake for like the past, say, 2 months. And it really made a lot of sense because you could see the kind of foods he had the most. And yeah, very nice. Yeah. So you could also build it, say, data set around your savings. So these are like projects that probably just, yeah, just think of you can just be creative and build things around things that interest you actually. So so thanks for this session. Quickly, you would like to quickly, I think the person that I would like to see your guidance advice on this comment. I've built my computer vision project and working as desired. Is that all? I guess okay, I guess I saw the question in the comment section. I think it's the same person. Thanks for this session. Quickly, you would like to see your guide. I would like to see your guidance advice on this comment. I have built my computer vision project and working as desired, but I need to deploy it on a Raspberry Pi or Jetson Nano, but I have knowledge, or I think the person wants to say I don't have knowledge of deploying
Oh, okay.
Raspberry Pi or Jetson Nano, and I'm stuck with printing the 3D modeling. I'm a medical student. Your advice will mean a lot to me. Okay.
So like
Do you want to
3D,
dish out advice, or you want say the person reaching out and you guys having a detailed conversation?
yeah, I think that would be, so hit me up on LinkedIn, Emmanuel Acheampong, we can have a detailed conversation. But I think this will take a little bit more time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But what I would say is that
your day,
NVIDIA,
Ebenezer. Okay, yeah, you can go ahead.
I say NVIDIA has a lot of resources on deploying on the Jetson. You can find them on YouTube, and like people have built various projects with that. I know Raspberry Pi has a lot of resources. There are a lot of resources on Raspberry Pi as well. The part I'm a bit stuck with is the printing the 3D models. Like, are you actually printing the 3D models, or like is your model printing the 3D model? Like, but we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
Please reach out
Yeah.
to me.
Okay, so I think I know the person who asked the question, and I'll try my best to link you guys together.
That would
And
be
all.
great.
Okay. So moving on to the next question. I want us to like go through this as quick
Oh.
as we can. Um, okay, I think it's the same question
Mhm.
spanning this. So, how do you approach gaining domain knowledge in a field you are not an expert in?
I think the second part is what's funny. Like
Yeah,
roboMUA.
then example. I think this is a continuation. Example,
Yeah.
roboMUA is a makeup focused, and I would venture to say you are not a makeup artist, okay, makeup expert. How do you gain the knowledge necessary for doing it?
That's funny. Like, how do you know I'm not a makeup expert? Like, you know, like that. Like, you have no idea if I'm
It's
a
like,
makeup.
yeah,
But you're right. I think one of the things that uh, the great thing about this, the notion of collaboration, right, is that if you want to build business domain knowledge in something that you're not interested in, like learn how to collaborate, right? Learn how to reach out to people that are in the field and have conversations with them. So, for example, with roboMUA, I have so many conversations with makeup artists, estheticians, beauty influencers. Like, I just sat down and just listened to them talk, right? And I also watched a lot of YouTube videos. If you go on my YouTube feed, it's just 80% makeup, 20% AI. Like, I watch a lot of, because again, this is the field that my company is in, and I have to make sure that like we are providing the best value for them, right? So I watch a lot of YouTube videos just so I'm like abreast with what is happening in the makeup field, and also having conversations. Like I'm always in conversations. Like whether it's like a beauty brand or a makeup influencer, like I'm always setting up 30 minutes just to like have a conversation with them. So if there's a field that you have no business in, please like make sure you talk to the people in that field, right? But don't talk to just the engineers in the field, because I think a lot of times people only talk to like the engineers in the field about what they're working.
Guys.
Yeah, you should talk to like the people who are actually in the field. So like again with makeup, I'm not talking to like software engineers who build makeup. I'm talking to makeup artists, right? I'm talking to people who have beauty brands, right? If it's healthcare, don't just talk to like the software engineers in hospitals. If you're trying to build something for doctors, go talk to the doctors. And a lot of people are open to having those conversations. And yeah, so in addition to that, you can always like find other sources of information. I use YouTube a lot and social media. You can also like buy books to learn about the field. But I think having conversations, right? Like these 15 minutes calls, 30 minutes calls to learn from a personalized perspective on that field is the best way to go.
Yeah, so like the best way to get domain knowledge is ask a domain expert or discuss with a domain expert. Yeah,
Exactly.
so yeah, if you want, you don't want to bid for it, you don't want to, you want to bid for healthcare, so you have to ask someone who is in the healthcare industry and stuff like that. So yeah, so moving on to the next one, do you take paid or free courses? Then what's the difference between taking a free and a paid course?
So in college, I never paid for a course, right? Like that's the thing that like as a college student, like I never paid for a course. That's one of the advantages of being a college student. So even when the course was like for pay, I either applied for a scholarship or like I would directly message whoever the course people were, and I'm like, hey, I'm a college student. I would really love to take your course. And then they'll give me a code to get in for free, right? So I think that there's really not a lot of different, like knowledge is knowledge, right? Like the only times that like paid courses, maybe they're like specific specialized knowledge that they only share. But even with that, if you look hard enough, you can find it with a free course. But as a college student, I never paid for a course. And I really don't think that college students should be paying for a course. If you're a working professional and you can afford it, you should definitely pay because it's okay to support people who are impacting you and giving you knowledge, right? But as a college student, I don't think you should ever pay for a course. Either find a free alternative, because again, these courses can ramp up very quickly and can be
Very
very
expensive.
expensive. Yeah. So either that or I always reached out to the course instructors or the course owners and I'm like, hey, I'm a college student. I can afford this. Please give me a scholarship to do it. And they will. Like if you reach out and you're bold enough, like they will give you that scholarship. But again, if you're like a working professional and you have a lot of like disposable income and you can support the people who are giving you knowledge, please uh, pay for it. But as a college student, I highly would not recommend it. And I think that people also make the argument that if you pay for a course, you're more likely to complete it than if it's free, right? But I think as a college student, no, because those are expensive, right? Like unless you know, yeah, like unless you're like super rich and you can afford to have that kind of
Like,
disposable.
have you checked out Udacity's courses? These guys, they'll give you 30 or 50% discounts and they are still very expensive.
So don't like if you want to take a course at Udacity and you've not been able to get one of their scholarships, like find the people who do the scholarships, message them. If these things work, like message them, tell them, hey, I'm a college student. Obviously, you need to show proof that you're in college. But if you tell them I'm a college student, I'm super interested in this field, I would love to advance my career, but I can't afford this, they will give you the scholarship, right? But I know Coursera has scholarships, Udacity has scholarships. Udemy has free courses sometimes in the year. Like sometimes you just make some courses free. And so yeah. But if you afford it, you should pay. But as a college student, I highly don't think you should ever pay for an online course. Like I don't think you should pay. Like people will be willing to help you. And yeah, it gets super expensive very.
Yeah. So also a quick addition. I think cause I think mostly Coursera courses, and Coursera gives you like once you, if you apply for financial aid, Coursera will give you the course for free. Like So almost all the courses I've applied to on Coursera, like all of them, have been through financial aid. So I anyone that comes to me for courses, I recommend courses. Um, I ask them to go for applying for financial aid, and you only have to wait 2 weeks, and you get your course for free. It could be a whole
Uh,
specialization, and Coursera will give you for free, and you take it
but
and you get the certificate. So it's really nice, and I also don't advise you go for courses. Udemy also they do this thing where they really bring down the courses to be very, very, very affordable. So if you feel you have the
mhm.
cash, you can also get them. But if you feel if you paid money for the course, there's probability that you finish the course. You probably may not finish the course. So, yeah. So yeah. So I think the final question we have here is as a beginner also in the data science space, can you walk us through how we can contribute to open source projects as a novice in depth in GitHub, please? So the person
That's
is asking how to contribute to open source
open
projects.
source projects. Yeah, that's great, right? But I think like with contributing to open source, again, it cuts across tech. So I think software engineers contribute to data open source projects all the time. Like
Yeah, I think they won't find it more easy. No, no, yeah,
easier.
because
Yep, yep,
data
yep.
guys tend to not find enough projects.
True, true. Yeah. But I think the thing that I would say is that if you want to contribute, like a lot of people, they try to go for the big contributions very early on. And sometimes like big open source projects, like they have so many contributors that like you as a beginner, you can get lost in the source, right? So thing that I would say is that like make sure that your GitHub profile is, it's not pimped out, but at least, it can show your level of skill. And so that like whoever the moderator of that particular repo is, when it goes to your, like, they can see that, hey, you know what you're doing. In addition, like start small, right? Like contribute to really small projects, projects that have, I don't know, like 5 to 10 contributors, so that like you get familiar with that whole process of like merging your code, being able to use like Git and all the issues that come with using Git, right? So definitely, like I would start small, and to find those kinds of projects, I think
So on this, I think for my community there was a we have some guys who just launched their package Python package is strictly for I think data preprocessing and stuff like that. And I think I can link you up with these guys or
oh,
send you the GitHub repo. The name of the
awesome.
project is Silk. Not sure if you've heard of the project before, but then it's a fresh one and you can be one of the early contributors if you're very much interested.
Awesome. What I was gonna say is that, like, for me, I scroll through GitHub the way some people scroll through like Instagram, right? And like I'll search for something and then I'll like look at people's repos, and like I will look at either through the trending page on GitHub or just like going through that. And that has been super helpful. I know it's very unconventional, but like I take my time, like I just go to GitHub and I just scroll through people's projects, right? And like you'd be surprised, a lot of like quality projects, they don't have like a lot of stars or a lot of like uh branches, but like you can see different types of awesome open source projects just by scrolling through it. And like most of the that I found, they're not like, you can like Google search them and then because it wouldn't come through your mind. But taking time, it sounds silly, but taking time to like go through the GitHub, right? You can either search through like your favorite topic or stuff like that. But I also know that on LinkedIn and on Twitter, people who are in the data science field, they're always sharing like a lot of GitHub repo resources. So if you follow certain kinds of people, or if you follow certain hashtags, you're definitely going to see like these repos that you can contribute to. Yeah, but for me personally, again, it's a thing that I do. I don't suggest it unless maybe you have extra time. Like I spend a lot of time on GitHub. I just browse through people's projects. It helps also to give me like inspiration sometimes. Just like browsing to see, oh, this person is doing this. Oh, and they're doing this and this and that. But yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah, so Paul, if you're talking, I think you're muted. But I think you're looking at the question, talked about generate your own data.
Oh, I was muted. Okay. Yeah, so I guess you get the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll share more light on this, like how unique is. So you want to talk about the uniqueness of my projects? Is that?
Yeah, I guess the person is person wants to know like example of unique projects that you needed to gather your data sets.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Maybe.
it's a lot. I don't know. But I would share. Uh, you can go on my GitHub. I think I have most of my public ones on GitHub. It's been a while since I pushed go to GitHub because I build in the cloud now. So most of my projects, I always forget to push to GitHub unless I'm trying to impress a recruiter. But you can go on GitHub and then see some of the projects. I think on GitHub I also have like my personal website, web app, which I put a lot of the projects there too. So I think you see them there. But in terms of generating my own data sets, there are multiple ways to do this, right? So for example, you can find every data that you want online. But the only issue is that a lot of the data is not like coagulated, right? So you have to do a lot of web scraping. And there are so many Python tools to do web scraping for a particular project. Some of the projects that I try to do are like, I have a data set of like my favorite movie scripts and TV series scripts, right? And then I analyze that. So it's you can do a lot of web scraping. You can also do a lot of using APIs. Google image search had API that doesn't work anymore. I think Yahoo Images has an API, a Python API that works. So you can use that as well. I don't know if I'm answering your question. I generate my own data set or how you can generate your own data set. I think you're still muted, Paul.
Okay. So if you're one of the participants and you're still around, you're still on the call, you can like try to clarify. Yeah. So yeah, so you could all like you said, you could get data from APIs that's like the Yahoo API if you say you want stock data. And for computer vision, generating data sets is just you sourcing images on Google or say you taking pictures by yourself. So yeah, it can get as easy as that.
Labeling it.
Yeah. For I think for some of your NLP projects where I see you is it analyzing like books or scripts like movie scripts, or I think I just saw one on The Simpsons and stuff like that.
Yeah. But I think again, like the way I build my project, I find things that I'm interested in, and then I build like. So when I was learning NLP, I like the law, right? Like I'm not a lawyer, unfortunately, but I really like reading the law and the Constitution, and like legal cases, I find super interesting. So like I just got a set of like legal cases from like the FBI's archives, and also from like various courts across, right? And like they give you all that information, right? Like they give you the recordings, they give you the the transcriptions of what went out, what went on in the court. They give you the verdicts, and so like those are things that I collect right on my free time as well too, because I think that's super interesting. And because I'm always collecting data, when it's time for me to build a project, I already usually have a data set for what I'm trying to build. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Okay, so I guess that's the last one. So Tolu is asking to clarify what. So I just want to ask, did the answer Emmanuel gave answered your question? Did the response answer your questions? If not, you can just um shed more light. But I guess that's the
Or,
last question we have
yeah, or you
here.
can reach out to me after this as well. Then
Yeah. So you can always reach out to Emmanuel. Yeah, same way I reached out to Emmanuel, and we're having this right now. So I'll be dropping Emmanuel's LinkedIn, or you can just search for him on LinkedIn. He's quite an influencer. Yeah, so you can always link up with him. So in the absence of no questions, so do you have any more questions? Okay, okay, how about the use of generative adversarial network in creating your new samples? Okay, so this is Enoch giving an example of
Vision.
new data sets using GANs. Do you want to add to that, Emmanuel, or
I think, yeah, you can use GANs to create, I think for image data sets, right?
yeah, for
And
image you can, yeah, for
the
images,
only
exactly.
the only issue that I have seen with GANs is that I know people say that they look real, and they are real, but like, for example, for what we are trying to do with roboMUA, it's like find like 100 different skin tones, right? And how to use a GAN to create like 100 different skin tones is a bit challenging. But you can definitely use GANs to, if let's say you're just looking for like generic images, you can definitely use GANs to do that.
Generate more samples.
Yeah, you can always use that to generate more samples.
All right, nice. Okay, so do we have any more questions before we release Emmanuel? It's been such an amazing session. I don't know if you guys feel the same too. So I want to know how excited you are, or how how do you feel the event went? Do you learn from it? Do you want do you want more light on anything? Do you feel we didn't touch some things? I know. Yeah, so yeah, that's really nice. Ibrahim is saying he's really excited. Okay, so I guess we are at the end of Tolu, yeah, you can. Let me try. So because we need to round up very short, like very soon, but Tolu wants to speak, and I guess I can, yeah, you can unmute yourself.
Oh, hi, good evening. I think it's morning where Emmanuel is. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for the. I think I learned a lot. I didn't really expect to learn much, honestly, but I learned a lot. It was really cool. Thank you for coming here to share your experiences. I also sent you a LinkedIn request, so I hope to connect with you shortly. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's really nice hearing feedback firsthand, even before ending the call, that this was really an awesome session. So thank you for coming on, Emmanuel. I really hope in subsequent times you can make time out for DSN with you again. And yeah, I enjoyed myself on this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was a very fun experience, and I'm learning a
Yeah.
lot. And totally, I'm definitely going to accept after. I'm going to accept the connection after this. So
Okay.
definitely.
Okay. So also I talked about giving a summary. So you can we have a giveaway for one person, and for you to win that, you have to go on Twitter and give a summary of this event. And the person, yeah, once you give the summary on Twitter, tag myself, tag the community DSN OAU. I guess I should just share that slide, yeah. And the person with the best summary gets to win our giveaway. So guys, we've come to the end of the event, and uh, thank you for joining in. So we see next month for another episode of something like this. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great weekend, everyone. Peace.